Welcome to Environmental Fridays. It is Personal Season 4. This season will be featuring 16 episodes with 16 guest speakers from Arizona, Barbados, Georgia, Grenada, Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Mexico, New Jersey, Ohio, Tobago, Trinidad, and the United Kingdom. Thank you to all our guest speakers. Now here's our host, Dr. Desmond Hartwell Murray. And today's guest co-host, Chloe Wesley. And today's guest speaker, Debora Oliveira.
So welcome to Environmental Fridays. It is personal. This is season 4. And today we have a very special guest that would answer a very interesting question. You will hear more about it here soon. This is episode 2 of Environmental Fridays. For more information, you can go to our website, www.theenvironmentalfridays.com, and you will see our entire schedule, more details about what Environmental Fridays is all about. Upcoming here in this month of January, we have 2 international environmental days. The first one is the International Environmental Education Day on January 26th. The other is International Reducing Carbon Dioxide Emissions Day, January 28th. So we encourage you to get online and check them out and see what they are all about. We also encourage everyone, those who are online with us, as well as those who view the video, to tell us, give us feedback on your favorite presentation, comments on any presentation, your thoughts about topics that we may want to feature in the future. So if you have any of those thoughts and feedback, send them to me, murrayD@andrews.edu, and we will publish them online. Down below at the bottom, again, you can access some previous environmental testimonials at our website, on our website. So this morning, I have the privilege of introducing our co-host, Chloe Wesley. She is a resident of the Mississippi Choctaw Reservation. She's a senior at the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science. She's a member of the Blue Diamond Step Team. I'm assuming that's a dance team here, Chloe? Okay, all right, very good. She's the secretary of the Plant Club and co-president of Indigenous Students Alliance. She enjoys reading and studying environmental sciences. And after graduation, she hopes to pursue a major in geology, earth sciences, and she has a dream of becoming a volcanologist. Is that right?
Volcanologist.
Volcanologist. There you go. There you go. So, Chloe, go ahead and introduce our speaker for today.
So our guest speaker's name is Debora Oliveira. She was born in Brazil in a city called João Pessoa, where she studied biotechnology. There, she fell in love with food biotechnology and decided to work with something innovative in this field. To accomplish that, she moved to Portugal to pursue her master's degree in food science at the University of Minho. The experience of living abroad deepened her knowledge in food science and allowed her to grow immensely as a professional and as a person. Currently, she works as a scientist at Quest Meat in Birmingham, UK, and has developed edible biomaterials for the cultivated meat sector.
That's right.
Okay, very good. The time is yours now.
So hello everyone. My name is Debora. As it was already said, I'm a scientist by profession, and currently I work at a startup called Quest Meat, where I work with cultivated meat in Birmingham in the United Kingdom. And today in these Environmental Fridays, I'm going to bring a little bit about the environmental benefits and the sustainability of cultivated meat technology. So to start this presentation, I'd like to bring a little bit more about my background and what did I study and what was the path that I did to start working in this field. So I studied in Brazil. I did my bachelor's in Brazil in biotechnology. And there I chose to specialize in food biotechnology, since biotech is a very broad field. Then, since everything related to food was always my passion, I chose to do a master's degree in food science and technology so I could learn more and more about this. And then right after that, I was hired in England by Quest Meat, where I currently work at. So for you to understand a bit more of what I studied, so biotechnology, basically, my first degree is a technology where biological systems, living organisms, or parts of this sometimes are used to develop or create different products for human consumption or anything else that's needed. So in my bachelor's, I studied different fields such as animal physiology, microbiology, chemistry, pharmacology, food biotech, neuroscience, genomics, you name it. Then I did my master's in food science and technology, where I could study some scientific disciplines such as chemistry, engineering, microbiology, sensorial analysis, and nutrition also, all related to the study of food and with the goal to improve the safety, nutrition, and wholesomeness of the food that we eat. And during my master's, also, I had the opportunity to do a one-year internship in this institute here called INL, which is the International Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory in Portugal. And I believe this one experience in this institute was very valuable for me to be able to now be working in the cultivated meat field. So first of all, I'd like to give a first definition of cultivated meat. Of course, afterwards, I'm going to go very thoroughly on that. But just because I don't know if anyone here heard about cultivated meat, I guess some of you did. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. But cultivated meat, which is also known as cultured meat or lab-grown meat, there are different names for it, is genuine animal meat. So it could be beef, chicken, seafood, you name it. And this genuine animal meat is produced by cultivating animal cells, real cells that become real meat, but with a different method. So before I explain more about that, I'd like to first explain the current problems we have in terms of environment and what we need to do for our planet. So first of all, we have a very big urgency to feed the world. So global hunger, even though nowadays is still one of the main issues worldwide, and 1 of 3 people don't have enough food yet, which is very absurd for these days. Also, aligned to that, we have a growing population, which is projected to reach around 9.1 billion by 2050. And apart from that, we have a growing demand for food also in the sense that we have a growing affluence worldwide. And because of that, it is expected that there is also a growing demand for meat. However, we have that the current agricultural system is extremely unsustainable and detrimental to the land, air, and water. So 60% of the world's ecosystems are already degraded or used unsustainably, and animal agriculture is considered one of the main drivers. So here I have chosen the 6 main problems that are correlated with the animal agricultural system nowadays, such as land use, animal cruelty, animal waste, greenhouse gas emissions, the propagation of diseases, and antibiotic resistance. So, starting with land use, there is a massive number of animals that are produced in very small areas of land. And this is extremely unsustainable because it leads to reduced soil fertility and other problems such as desertification, loss of plants, biodiversity, and also the inability to regrow lost flora. There are other problems because factory farming is also responsible for much more destruction than that, including chemical fumes, toxic runoff, and unsustainable water use. Also, 2 of the main problems we have with the current agricultural system are animal waste and animal cruelty. The latter that could be already a reason enough for us to rethink our eating habits and our consumption of meat. So first of all, speaking about animal waste, the animal waste that runs off of this intense livestock production pollutes local waterways and reduces clean water availability. So there's a lot of pollution of the waterways, of the water we need, with things like pesticides, herbicides, hormones, antibiotics, and bacteria also. And because of that, it also reduces the availability of uncontaminated fish supply. Apart from that, animal cruelty is an obvious problem we have. Often those animals are kept in filthy and severely crowded spaces, subject to stress and cruelty conditions. I'm not going to go too deeply in this subject because it may be a bit too sensitive for me also, but those animals endure a stressful and terrifying trip to the abattoir, where many are ineffectively stunned and therefore killed without one's due conscience. And this is something we have to consider when we eat meat, and where we have to also consider the origin of the meat we eat. Another problem, obviously, is greenhouse gas emissions. Animal agriculture alone is responsible for emitting 18% of all greenhouse gases, and this is even expected to increase by 80% by the year of 2050. Another very big problem we have is food safety and also antibiotic resistance. So there are several pathogens that are correlated with the consumption of animal meat. We have, for example, Salmonella, which is a bacteria commonly associated with the consumption of improperly cooked poultry and beef that causes vomiting and diarrhea, and other bacteria such as Listeria monocytogenes, Staphylococcus, Bacillus cereus, all that can cause very serious diseases to humans. And when we think about cultivated meat, so to have meat that's produced in a different way, some people are probably, that I'm gonna talk more thoroughly about that after, but some people are concerned with food safety when it comes to cultivated meat, which for me sounds absurd because I work in the field and I know how much safer it is, how much it has to be clean to cultivate meat in a controlled environment in the laboratory or in an industry. There's no possibility of contamination because otherwise the cells won't grow and they won't turn into meat. So you have to have a very clean environment, a very different environment than the traditional ways of eating meat and having meat from animals. So also, apart from food safety, antibiotic resistance is a very big problem because many farming practices nowadays involve the overuse of antibiotic treatments, and using antibiotics on farms basically increases the risk of antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria and puts both farmers, farm workers and consumers at a great risk of infection. So having said that, there is a very big need to find alternative proteins for us. So new sources of protein that I'm here calling alternative proteins are new sources of protein that can present a unique opportunity to feed a growing global population, and they can provide us nutritious and delicious food while safeguarding the public health and valuable natural ecosystems. So they have the potential to be cleaner, more ethical, healthier, and cause less environmental impact. Alternative proteins are designed to mimic their animal-derived counterparts in taste, texture, and culinary experience, as well as in price and availability. So those alternative proteins are made to actually look as close as possible to meat. And we have different types of alternative proteins nowadays. We have plant-based alternative proteins, such as again, I don't know if anyone have tried that.
We lost you for a little bit there. What's your question?
I asked if anyone has tried the Beyond Burger.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Good. It's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. Yeah. So that's completely plant-based, and it's not just a regular plant-based burger, because it was actually thought and planned so it could mimic as best as possible something that is meat-based. So that's the current goal. So we have plant-based alternative proteins, as well as fungi-based alternative proteins, such as this brand Corn that's based in the UK. They also make burgers that are very good and are made from fungi mycelium. We have algae-based alternative proteins. Algae are a great source of proteins, such as spirulina. And last but not least, we have cultivated protein sources that I'm going to talk about. So the idea of cultivating meat without having an animal involved has a long history, actually. In 1931, Winston Churchill predicted, 50 years hence, we shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat just the breast or just the wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. So this was a long time ago, before World War II. And it's interesting because now that's a reality. So before I start explaining what cultivated meat is, I'd like to be sure that everyone here understands a bit of cell culture, because essentially cultivated meat is cell culture for meat goals. So cell culture is the process by which cells are grown under controlled conditions, generally outside of their natural environment. So you can culture cells in the laboratory environment or in a company. So for the cells to grow, basically they need 4 things. They need a medium, a liquid medium, as you can see here in the picture, that this medium can supply the essential nutrients that the cells will need to survive and grow. Growth factors, also for them to support their growth, as it the word says, gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also regulated conditions such as pH, osmotic pressure, and temperature. And here in this picture, you can see some micrographs of myosatellite cells. So the cells that create the muscle cells in the microscopy. So, any questions at this point? about cell culture. Does anyone understand?
So the medium is mostly always aqueous, water-based?
Yes, water-based, yes. Yes.
Okay. And then
So,
you would have like glucose and other stuff in there.
yes, nutrients, because if the cells were in the body, they would need the blood. The blood would bring all the nutrients that the cells need. So the medium will supply all those nutrients for them to grow. And the temperature should be regulated according to the cell type also. So for example, for cow cells, which are the cells I work with, you have to control, like they have to be at 37 degrees because that's the temperature of the cow. So you have to mimic what would happen in the body of the animal.
And you don't want to denature the proteins either, right?
No,
Yeah,
I
the
want
temperature. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, sure.
Does the cells, it's already an embryo, or it is already fertilized cells before it's being put in the lab?
I'm gonna.
Because that's kind of the controversy that
Yes,
I've
exactly.
been
I'll tell you.
encountering. Right.
Exactly. I'm gonna answer you that in just a bit. 2 slides from now. Can be. Does it work for you?
Okay. Very good.
Okay, can be both. Okay, so what is cultivated meat after all? So cultivated meat is edible animal protein grown from cells in a bioreactor if we're thinking about a big scale of meat. So, and the goal, the ultimate goal of cultivated meat technology is to reproduce the conventional meats in terms of sensory attributes, structural and nutritional values. So the ultimate goal is basically to make meat that's completely like the same meat as we're used to eat. And now answering the previous question, so about the cell lines, we can use both types. We can use embryonic stem cells or adult stem cells, but each one of those cell types will have pros and cons. So the embryonic stem cells are basically cells that can differentiate into all cell types. So when I say differentiate, I mean, for example, in this picture, this would be a stem cell, a pluripotent stem cell. So it has still the ability, it comes from an embryo, and it has the ability under specific conditions to differentiate in any of those different cell types. So it could be an adipocyte, a muscle fiber, it could be a neuron, platelets, anything. And it seems like a very big advantage, but of course, if we're talking about an embryo, it comes with some ethical implications that are a bit more difficult to go over. So it's right now, well, in the company I work at, we use adult stem cells, so we don't have this issue in terms of ethics, in terms of bioethics, and we use adult stem cells. So we use cells that are a bit older, they are specialized, they are adult, and because they are already specialized, they are already compromised with a certain they are compromised into turning into a specific cell type, so they cannot turn into anything else. So I use the precursors, these stem cells from muscle cells. So the stem cells we have here are going to turn into muscle only. They cannot turn into anything else. Any questions at this point? All good?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so making it very simple, those are the basic steps to cultivate meat. That's the way we do it here in the laboratory. So first, we collect a sample from the animal. It has to be like it can be a very, very small sample of tissue of the wherever there's muscle in the cow. And this very, very small tissue that I must say doesn't have to be collected often. Like we will have this small tissue, then it will have cells, right? And then those cells will make as best as we can to use those cells and multiply them as most as fast as we can, so we don't have to go back to the animal and collect again. So it lasts quite a while. It's been a year that we didn't collect a sample, for example, from a cow. Yeah, and this tissue we collect will contain cells. Stem cells from muscle. And then after we have those cells that are not muscle yet, they are precursors, right? Those cells are going into the proliferation phase, which happens in a bioreactor. That can be a small one. This is a small bioreactor, bench scale, or bigger one also. And those cells are added to this bioreactor that contains cell culture media, which means the liquid that will give the nutrition for the cells to grow properly. And this will cause the cells to proliferate. After those cells proliferate enough, which takes sometimes some weeks, we go to the differentiation step. So it's also called tissue maturation, this step. And it happens because a change in the cultural conditions, it can be a change in the growth factors, it could be many different things. This change in cultural conditions pushes the cells to differentiate into the cell type they can differentiate to. In this case, they can differentiate into muscle. And then we would collect those cells from the bioreactor and we would have our prototype of meat, cultivated meat made in the lab. Of course, it's important to note that meat isn't just muscle, but muscle is the key part of meat, as you can expect. So meat is muscle cells, fat cells, connective tissue, cartilage, everything make meat taste like meat. But since this is a very new technology and everything is extremely complex, as you can imagine, right now we are focusing on the main two cell types present in meat, which are muscle and fat, because they are fundamental for texture and flavor most of all. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes.
Let's say, for instance, the cow has some genetically a variation.
Yeah.
Does your company filters the genetically?
That's a good question. That's a good question. We tried with different cows, different phenotypes of cows, and right now we are using the samples we have that we are working with the most are from I think it's called British Blue, which is a very strong cow. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a very strong cow that has a lot of muscle. It has a natural mutation where it grows a lot of muscle, and it has been very good in the lab.
I guess let me make my question a little further. If let's say, for instance, this cow was grown in the farm, and we already has antibiotics process, we already have genetic alteration. So by altering again the cells into a different magnitude, could this also create some kind of genetic traits in humans? That's my observation.
No, I understand your question, but the cells aren't changed. I mean, the cells are moved to a different space, completely different space, but the cells aren't changed genetically, not the cells, at least. So no, I would say no.
So mostly you take the cells and they grow into the same cells that they from the origin.
And yes, of course we have. I'm not going deep into that, but we have methods to before like we go into the real piece of meat, right? We have methods to check if those cells that we want are really the cells that we want. So there are methodologies that we do to be sure we're not wasting our time and that we collected the right type of cell. And yeah, right now we do muscle and fat cells here.
Okay, very good.
Moving further.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Now, how does cultivated meat compete with traditional livestock after all? So cultivated meat is said to have potential to significantly lessen carbon emissions, especially when replacing livestock such as conventional beef. And conventional beef is the most problematic one because it produces the most greenhouse gases, especially methane. So here in this very simple table, you can see that using cultivated meat to produce cow meat accounts for a reduction in carbon emissions of 92%, which is a great reduction. When you compare it to chicken, for example, this reduction isn't so significant in terms of carbon emissions, but it is very significant in terms of land use. And cultivated pork is right in the middle of those. Of course, we have all the, I only put like these statistics for chicken, pork, and cow, but we also have fish, all the seafood, duck. We have different animals with different companies worldwide working on that. Here I brought many, like actually a very small part from all the news I could find about the most recent progress we have on the cultivated meat field. So we have news about different like companies in the field growing. We have Believer here that has built a plant that is said to be the America's largest synthetic meat plant. We have regulatory approvals happening slowly in the world. The global food tech company Eat Just here on the bottom right, which works with cell cultured chicken, will significantly scale up its production after its serum-free media gained, its cultural media gained regulatory approval by the Singapore Food Agency. And Singapore actually is the first country to have people already eating cultivated meat. And Eat Just, this company, since it was already approved, currently sells this meat at a very high-end restaurant in Singapore. And all the companies are following. Here are some of the companies. There are many more companies than this. I actually should have put more here, but those are some of the most important ones, and they are very strong right now. For example, we have Upside Foods in America that recently got approval by the FDA to start working on the commercialization of its cultivated meat. We have Mosa Meat, which is really big and is constantly publishing new science in the field in Netherlands. We have Rustling Technologies. We have many, many things happening at the moment. Last but not least, we also have current challenges that we need to face. The first of them is public acceptance, I think, because consumers are used to how the products they buy are in the supermarket. They are used to how they should look, smell, and most importantly, taste. But fortunately, cultivated meat has the potential to not only match, but surpass the existing products. And I think one of the main important things in regards to public acceptance is actually to get to make people understand what cultivated meat is. And because if you understand what it is and that it is safe and how it's made, and if you make the process transparent, I think the public is much more likely to accept it as a new thing and necessary thing. Also, another challenge is, of course, the price, because cultured meat is unlikely to achieve widespread adoption until it achieves cost parity with conventional meat. And until now, everything in cultivated meat industry is very expensive, very pricey. The third challenge is to scale up the production, because a scale up is required to achieve lower production costs also. And this, of course, will require plenty of investment to allow cultured meats to penetrate the consumer market in a meaningful way. And the fourth thing is the policy. So Singapore right now is the only country to have approved a cultured meat product. And if it is to cultured meat to be successful, policymakers will need to adopt a more forward-thinking position on the matter so it can be actually sold for us. That's it for my presentation. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Whatever you need to ask, I try to be brief, but
Oh, yes, this is good. This is good. Chloe?
I had a few questions. So my first question was, I understand that you were from Brazil. So I was wondering if you knew any Portuguese.
sorry, I couldn't hear the end of the question.
I was wondering if you knew any Portuguese.
Portuguese. I speak Portuguese. You mean Portuguese people or Portuguese, the language?
The language.
I speak Portuguese.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, Brazilian Portuguese. Yeah, slightly different, but yeah.
I was curious because I'm in a Portuguese class right now, along with Spanish. So I was just thought that was really interesting. But my second question was, what was your inspiration behind your decision to pursue biotechnology, specifically food science and technology?
Okay, so I think I mentioned I always loved everything related to food, but liking something isn't enough for you to want to work with it. So I didn't mention, but I studied biotech, but I also studied a bit of nutrition. And at some point I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to finish nutrition or biotech? Because I couldn't have both at the same time, to be honest. And then I wondered like, okay, even though you want to learn about both subjects, what do you want to work with? Do you want to actually be a nutritionist or something else? And then I realized, yeah, I didn't want to be a nutritionist. I just wanted to, in regards to the food field. And then biotech seemed to give me that. But as I mentioned, biotech is a very broad field. But you're also not a specialist in anything because you learned a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I really felt the need to specialize in the parts of it that I liked most, which is food biotech and food science and innovation.
Okay, it's really interesting. Okay, so at this time, if anyone has any questions, you may ask them. And yeah.
So I see two questions in the chat. So Pat, do you want to go first? You could unmute.
Yes, I was right. I wasn't sure about the question. I mean, this, as far as I'm concerned, is something absolutely new to me. It's not something that I had ever thought about. But what does the final product look like? Does it look like a piece of meat, a piece of fish, or kind of, because you have to get over that sort of barrier? Does it require cooking? Or are we now moving into the stage where instead of sitting down to a family meal, we sit down to a pile of pills?
That's a great question, actually. So after it goes through tissue maturation, it should look like meat. Okay, so the first meat products, I'm pretty sure that the first meat products that are going to the market are not going to be like a piece of steak where you have that structured like that. Because like when you have a piece of steak, for example, you have the beef, the part, like the dark red bits, which is the muscle, and the white bits, which are the fats, and those are like in the structure, right? So we call it structured meat. So it's very likely that the first cultivated meat products are going to be unstructured, like a hamburger, for example, where you have minced meat that's put together into something, or a sausage. Those are all unstructured types of meat where because it's much easier, because then it's another problem to make it actually have a piece of bone inside the meat. That's like another step for the cultivated meat field, actually. So probably we're starting with something that would look like a hamburger, sausage, or something like that.
Okay.
But it should taste and smell, and it smells the same as meat.
Okay. There's another question. Yvonne Isom, you could unmute. Is Yvonne there still? Francis is asking the question. Go ahead.
No, that was my question, as it relates to what Pat just said. What would a steak look like? What would a chicken breast look like for us newbies?
Yeah, it should look like like a chicken nugget should look, this one's the easiest, I think. It should look exactly as a normal chicken nuggets, because then you're gonna have like the, I don't know, I should have brought a picture here, but you can find the picture of the chicken nuggets that the company in Singapore sells, and they look exactly the same as normal chicken nuggets. So the chicken inside, the crispy part on the outside, so it should look the same.
But I guess I said chicken breast in a steak.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
It's more processed foods. And so I'm just learning about this cultivated food, but I try not to eat chicken nuggets because
yeah, I thought you said chicken nuggets, that's fine. Yeah, but it should look the same. But I mean, like, for example, I work at a cultivated meat company, but we are still small, and I must highlight how many cells, like it's a massive amount of cells to do a chicken breast. So we are still small, so we wouldn't have maybe a chicken breast, but something like a small mini piece of breast.
So what about a chicken wing? I mean, for us newbies, does a chicken wing as we know it today look the same when it comes to cultivated meats? If we're using chicken now as the example, and if we're using beef or a cow as an example, would that look like a porterhouse or a T-bone or a steak of that nature or not?
If that, I don't know if I answered the question. If they would look like the real thing, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
gonna be. Yeah, that's what I said previously. The goal is to make it look exactly the same, but right now probably you're not gonna see like a piece of. You're not gonna like. We are far from having a cultivated wing, like with it looking exactly like a piece of like chicken wing. You know, we're gonna have something more like a burger or a sausage, something that doesn't really have a structure yet. Those will be the first things.
And I just wondered, how are you marketing this product where you're at? Like, is it a vegan? Is it on there saying cultivated? Is it saying, how do you market it? What are the keywords on the packet? So when
okay, we don't have a packet yet because we are still in the process. We're still ongoing. But how I would market, you can say it's, I don't know if you can say if it's vegan. We have to find another, because it's what the definition of something vegan is that it didn't come from animal origin. So I don't think it's vegan, but a vegan would eat it. Maybe we even had a vegan in our team, actually, very strong vegan. And she was like very keen in working with that. Actually, if you think about the reasons for someone to go into veganism, I think many of those can be, if you think about cultivated meat, a vegan would maybe eat it. That's what I mean.
So my last question is actually two. One is not a question, it's a thank you, because like some who have already stated, this was so educational. I didn't even know it was out here. And so thank you for educating us. And I told Dr. Murray earlier, this is so educational. We need to know more about this. Because one day it's in one country, but I guess now moving forward to the United States, I saw Memphis as a name. So we know we have a
Yeah.
here called Memphis. So
Mhm.
is it in the United States?
Yeah,
And-
America is really, I think America is going really well in the cultivated meat field. For example, the company I mentioned, Eat Just, I didn't put the logo here. Wait.
Believer.
The company Eat Just that I told you is already selling the products in Singapore is actually American. And it started with a product called Just Egg. I don't know if you ever seen it, but this first product is plant-based actually, but then the CEO started to go into the cultivated meat, and its current, the biggest facility is in Singapore, but the company is American. And yeah, Believer, American, Upside Foods, American, and many others.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll leave. I have other questions, but
So-
I'll others go ahead.
Okay, so I see Samsung, I don't know who that is, has a question. You could unmute. Okay, so it looks like they want to know, where can you purchase this meat from?
Where can you purchase this? The cultivated meat? Okay, in Singapore, right now, just in
Okay.
Singapore. The other companies are close to that. They're probably gonna be selling cultivated meat in the market by 2030, like maximum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are other companies, like they are very well. They just like they have to wait for regulations. The whole process has to be reviewed so it can be sold. And as I said, one of the challenges is that the technology is still very pricey. So current efforts is to try and make it cheaper to find new possible ingredients that can supply this new industry and make it more accessible, because it doesn't matter if we have an incredible product and it costs thousands of dollars. So we have to make it cheaper, but only in Singapore if you want to buy it. Yeah, I don't know the name of the restaurant, but I'm sure you can find it.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Pat, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I mean, this might sound, I just had a vision, people sitting down in the United States, etc., to Thanksgiving dinner with a turkey patty in front of them instead of a turkey.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, it's this might work for some, but it looks as if, again, there would have to be a balance and the choice.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
I
would-
can understand the reduction in greenhouse gases, which is something that we're all very much concerned about. But it's just the idea. And
Yeah.
don't forget too that human animals have to chew. That if you're presented with a patty rather than a piece of beef, you won't have to chew it so much. So therefore, you will be losing part of your normal, I'm not quite sure how to describe it. So in other words, we've already lost the ability to chew properly because of so many processed foods. That just seems, I'm not sure that this is a step in the right direction.
I love your comment actually, because it gives me the opportunity to say some things. It was very valid, and in my opinion, well, I believe it's everything about balance. When we talk about developing this technology to making meat without animals, we're not necessarily talking about eradicating the traditional ways of farming.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about the fact that human population is growing. We have to find other alternatives. It's the amount of animals we consume is extraordinary. And if we had more alternatives, less animals would die, less environmental impact, less of all the damage we have. So cultivated meat comes along with other alternative proteins to as I said, and the more alternatives we have, apart from the traditional method of eating meat, it's already a win. You know, like maybe imagine if not all meat in the world, but imagine if all hamburgers didn't come from cows, for example. All hamburgers in the world, all fast food from the world would come from this type of technology. This would be a massive difference already in terms of slaughter and in terms of environmental issues.
Yeah, I could see this just as giving the consumer a wider choices. And, you know, I don't see the Thanksgiving turkey being replaced. You could still
No,
have,
me neither.
you still have,
Could, but
right.
not necessarily.
Yeah, you definitely could still have both. I could see a world in which you have the choice of, you know, cultivated meat versus other traditional meat. But I don't think the aim is to just completely replace.
Yeah, that's not the aim.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's to give options, really.
So I get the sense, I thought it was more widespread, but you're saying it's really mostly in Singapore right now.
Yeah, in terms of people eating it, yes.
Yeah, and also in terms of the timeline you gave us, like 2030, I mean, it's not, 7 years is not too far away, really.
Yeah,
But,
things are evolving quite fast.
Right, yeah. And so some of the issues and questions that were raised here, I'm pretty sure the companies are working towards making it more palatable, more visually appealing, and all of that type of stuff. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell. It wouldn't sell.
Of course, they need to make it look like good. They need to make it taste good. No, they need to make the process transparent.
I'm more concerned too with the health benefits. You know, I just try to envision what would reading the label look like for these products. You know, the label as we know it today, the label that the FDA has mandated for, you know, food companies to place on their products. What would that look like? And what has been your interaction with the FDA here in the United States?
I didn't have much of an interaction with the FDA in the United States since I'm based in the UK right now. So I'm not gonna say a lot about that, but in regards to the label, how we would look like, that's really hard to do, like really hard to answer, but it should look very similar to the label of the normal piece of meat. There is the potential to, but then this is something else. There's also the potential to control the nutritional value of this product better, obviously, because if we are, for example, if we are cultivating meat and we separately grow fat, we separately grow muscle, we can maybe have we can control the texture, we can control the amount of fat in the product, for example. So there is the potential to play a bit with the nutritional value and make it healthier, change maybe the type of fat that is there, so it doesn't only have like saturated acids. You can make it a bit healthier. There's a lot to happen in terms of nutrition of this cultivated meat.
Thank you very much. This is so educational. Dr. Murray, I want to thank you as well for having her as a guest. Bring her back.
Okay.
You know, I would like to know more.
So yeah, one comparison I was thinking about when you started talking about the packaging is actually with rice. So now rice is grown with carotene in it and other things that actually makes the naturally growing rice, that makes the cultivated rice more nutritious. And it's right, and it helps out in countries where, you know, there is malnutrition at the high rate and all that type of stuff. So the ability to do this but do it right, I could see the benefits of that.
Yeah, for sure. For example, in the US, from the statistics, the consumption of omega-3 fats is very low, for example. So if you don't eat a lot of fish and things like chia seeds, if you don't have a healthy diet, you're probably not consuming as much omega-3s as you need to. And maybe if we could have meat that had omega-3s too, for example, would be good.
Yeah.
Just an idea, but many things we can play with that. And
right. Okay, well, thank you so very much. And is there any last question that someone may have before we? I'm really appreciating too that you said a lot in a short period of time. we didn't go, all, yes, so.
It was
impactful.
I wasn't sure about how deep should I go into the science, because I thought this would be something new for most of you. So I didn't want to make it like, I didn't want to fry your brains.
No, this was good. It was good. It was very good.
Yeah. I had a few things I wanted to say. I want to thank you for Debora. I wanted to thank you for talking. I didn't know much about the topic before, but now I wrote down a bunch of notes, and I want to look into it myself more about things like these. It's been really good, really educational. And even when it wasn't related to that, when you were talking about how you switched from, nutrition, you weren't sure whether to go, that was also inspiring to me as a junior, as I'm going to, graduate soon, and about, having options, not going from, different majors and stuff. So that was also really interesting. And I just want to thank you for your time and allowing me to be here. And that's very nice. But thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity and talking a bit here.
So next week, we will be going to Grenada and looking at water challenges in Grenada. In the meantime, hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thanks again to my co-host and to our guest speaker. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
For more information about our sponsors and partners, please visit the Environmental Fridays Partners and Sponsors page. Be sure to visit our website at www.theenvironmentalfridays.com.